There are those that just want to be left alone, and those that just won't leave them alone. Which one are you? The Ernest Hancock Show.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, my good friend Scott Horton. Not to be confused with the international law expert from Harper, Scott Horton. Jim Sharp made a mistake when he did the bio on that, but what the heck, I say he's an international expert, but we'll go and get that fixed. You know, the one thing that I want to make sure you guys know, Judge Napolitano at 8 Eastern this evening on the Fox Business Channel is going to have Scott Horton on, talk about all kinds of goodies. He's going to tell us about that. But there's 3 things in this segment real quick I want to make sure Scott touches on. One of them is Korea. You know, it's North-South Korea. Kind of, what the heck's really going on there? And then China's role. They got like a special announcement they wanted to make early this morning. You know, we got a press release we want to share with y'all. And then, of course, you know, this terrorism thing going on in Iran. So go ahead and go for it, Scott. Korea, China, terrorism in Iran.
All right. Well, first of all, on Korea, of course, last Tuesday, there was a war game going on. The South was carrying on, and the North was adequately provoked, apparently, to fire into South Korean waters. It's disputed waters there. Unlike the DMZ on land, the waters in the to the west of the Korean Peninsula are in dispute, have remained in dispute, and so. Then both sides started talking real tough. The Secretary of War, whatever they call him, Defense Minister of South Korea, had to resign for his shame in not launching full airstrikes in retaliation. He said outright that he was trying to avoid an escalation into a full-scale war, but was forced to resign his position. Then Lord Obama sent an aircraft carrier, and I don't know if it was an entire carrier battle group, Ernie. I guess not. I think it was a carrier and 4 battleships to go and participate in more exercises that I guess are still going on, began late Saturday, I believe. And the South Koreans fired 1 shell into North Korea, but they said it was an accident. And basically there's a lot of tough talk on the outside, but I would caution, at least myself, and I hope you and your audience, that no one there really wants war. And I don't know that it's credible to believe that they're all on the telephone with each other saying, well, okay, we have to be tough for domestic politics purposes, but we all know that nobody's going to go crazy here or not. I kind of doubt that that's true, but I sure wish it was. But I think that the Americans, the South Koreans, the North Koreans, and the Chinese as well all agree nobody wants a full-scale conflict on the Korean Peninsula. The problem here, Ernie, is our intervention in the first place. If it wasn't for our intervention, North and South Korea would have been reunited at some point since the end of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. We continue to keep them divided, continue to obstruct any real peace treaty to end the war from 1953, which is now still only on a temporary ceasefire. We arm up and, to use George Bush's word, embolden the South Koreans to act a lot more nationalist and a lot tougher than they really are, because we got 30,000 of our guys there. And so they figure that no matter what they do, if it comes down to it, we'll use nuclear weapons to protect our soldiers and our Navy. So it's just exactly...
Well, what's China's role in this?
Washington's farewell address. This is exactly what you don't do, is make friends with a country like South Korea in a way where now their enemies are your enemies. We have no business there, and we only make matters worse. That said, I don't think anyone wants war, and I hope that it won't go anywhere. But 2, once you're involved in these kinds of conflicts, you know, they say truth is the first casualty. I say good information is the second casualty. You have things like an accidental artillery strike from the South, 1 shell fired. Something like that can lead to a full-scale war. So our government is really playing around with fire here.
Well, I mean, is it to distract from other stuff? Is it like change the lead? I mean, the wag the dog thing, and you go playing around with, nuclear powers in China, you're just begging for trouble. So now we have Russia and China. Now they're working together and abandoning the U.S. dollar, so that's not going to be swallowed well. Then we have China issuing press releases and so on. What's China's role in this? What kind of position are they taking?
Well, they're saying, let's start the negotiations again. George Bush, actually, toward the end of his term, was finally convinced, I guess. The story went, it was, a group of people. Cheney was out of town, and it was Condoleezza Rice and I think Christopher Hill and some said Henry Kissinger was there, and they were the last people to talk to George Bush at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and so they won the argument and convinced him to let them go and negotiate with North Korea finally. And they began negotiations, although they didn't succeed very well. They made some progress, but Obama has basically, I'm trying to remember, strategic, I forgot what they call it, but he's deliberately ignoring North Korea, not really engaging them or doing anything else. And the Chinese are saying, let's get back in the six-party talks, which I guess is something, but I would prefer to see the United States simply drop all the sanctions against North Korea, promise that we will never attack them, give them a security guarantee that we'll never attack them, get our guys out of there, and cease making this our problem. You know, it's only because George Bush broke the deal that Bill Clinton made in 2002 and browbeat the North Koreans and forced them out of that deal is the only reason they have nukes at all. They were still within the Non-Proliferation Treaty and had a safeguards agreement with the IAEA, and it was only in 2003, because of George Bush's lying belligerence and false accusations against them and adding sanctions on them and threatening to seize their ships at sea, etc., that they finally decided to withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, kick out the inspectors, turn off the cameras, break the seals. They restarted their Soviet-era nuclear power plant and began harvesting plutonium out of it to make nuclear weapons. And now it's estimated they have half a dozen to a dozen atom bombs. And again, all of this is because of American intervention. Before that, it was the Sunshine Policy. The South Koreans were trying to, you know, like Bastiat, open borders and where goods and capital and labor and people can cross borders, then soldiers won't, you know? And America simply makes matters worse, and Obama's no better than Bush on this whatsoever.
Hey, Scott, do you have time to stay another segment?
If you'll have me, I'd
yeah,
love to.
no, because we want to make sure we're going to run out of time, and I know you want to give us the skinny on terrorism and Iran. We'll go ahead and start on it, and then we'll finish it up next segment.
Okay, well, I will point to an article at Raw Story by Larissa Alexandrovna and Muriel Kane that just came out today. Exclusive. Leaked cable reveals U.S.-Israeli strategy for regime change in Iran. And full disclosure, Larissa Alexandrovna is my girlfriend, but I still think this is great reporting independently of that fact. And what this says is that, according to a document from August of 2007, in a meeting between Meir Dagan, who is the head of the Israeli Mossad, and Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, R. Nicholas Burns, Meir Dagan basically blackmailed the United States and said, I recognize that your estimation of Iran's nuclear program is different from ours. And that is, this is at the time that the CIA was saying that there is not a nuclear weapons program in Iran, just a nuclear program. And Dagan acknowledges to Burns that you have your differences of analysis there, but I'm here to tell you, we have our own red lines and our own timelines, and if you don't strike when it becomes necessary, we will. And of course, Ernie, if Israel were to bomb Iran, America would be involved in that war immediately. We have all of our, not all, but much of our Navy is in the Persian Gulf, the Fifth Fleet stationed at Bahrain, and we have bases in Qatar. We have 50,000 combat troops in Iraq.
Oh, more on Iran with Scott Horton when we come back here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock. We need to know this stuff because it's going to be front page news before you know it. We'll be right back.